Hello everyone and welcome back to another episode of Microsoft Flight Simulator, and today we are back in the Overkill liveries TBM-850 and we're going to be going from San Juan over to the Caribbean. Specifically, we're going to be landing at Princess Juliana, so let's get in the aircraft and get on out of here. If you are interested in acquiring any of my Overkills tutorial guides from Microsoft Flight Simulator or simply interested in supporting the channel, please consider joining us on Patreon. Patreon subscribers level tier 2 and above have access to all of my guides, as well as any future releases that come down the road. Patreon link can be found in the description below. All right, folks, so as we get all buttoned up here, let's go ahead and get the hatches closed up. Get her buttoned up, tightened up, ready to go. Close that cargo door. And let's move on up to the front seat. All right, same thing. Pull our step ladder in. Close the pilot door. And make sure we're green for latched, and we are good to go. Okay, now we're going to want to get her started up pretty quick. As you guys see, we already have a cabin temperature warning. 94 degrees in this thing today, so we definitely want to get ourselves up and running very, very quickly. If you guys are interested, we are going to be using my Overkills tutorial guide today. Flying the TBM-850. This has absolutely everything you need to complete a full flight from cold and dark to cold and dark. And has a bunch of really awesome information at you guys. So we are going to start walking through our pre-flight cockpit preparation and work through the engine start. We're going to try to get this out very, very quickly. So let's go ahead and get after it. All right, so let's get moving here. So crash bar is up. We want to make sure our source selector is off. Our generator is set to main. The starter is off. Ignition is off. Exterior lights are all off. Gyros are off. We want to make sure the emergency exit lights are working, or not exit lights, but emergency lights, excuse me. So test them, turn it off. All circuit breakers pushed in. Make sure that we don't have any circuit breakers sticking out. Remember, with this aircraft, you absolutely want to be checking these as they will randomly fail. So make sure you're checking them on every pre-flight, guys, if you have failures turned on. All right, de-icing switches, we want to make sure they are all off. The gear handle is down. Autopilot trims master switch is down. Radio master switch is off. Bleed air system is off. Air conditioning system is off. Dump switch is guarded and in the norm position. Ram air is pushed in. Fuel selector, we want to make sure that's set to manual, and auxiliary boost pumps are in the off position as well. Fuel tank, we want to set the fullest. Now, we need to set our fuel, but we'll get to that in just a second here. Actually, let's go ahead and do that now. What we're going to need for that, though, is SimBrief, which I accidentally closed. Of course I did. Just because it's getting hotter in the aircraft, why not take more time? Hang on, I'm getting back in there. Getting back in there. I didn't mean to close it out. We're going to be using the GTN 750 today, so we're going to be opening up the SimBrief profile within it. But we obviously want to check our latest flight here. So there it is, PDF, and let's get our fuel on board. So today we're going to be looking at block fuel 922, and we'll go ahead and set our passenger weight as well. Total payload is going to be 1226. All right, so 922 on the fuel. Oh, cool, we're just about there. Good. 935, I'll take that, and 1,200 pounds of fuel is what we're looking, or 1,200 pounds of cargo. So damn, we're heavy today. 1216, I'll take that. Let's move that, shift some of that weight around, get things back as close to center as we can, ideally. All right, continuing on. So fuel selector is set to the fuelist. Nice. Emergency locator transmitter is in the armed position. Let me go over there and make sure that we are centered. And if you ever doubt it, just turn it on. Good thing it's just simulation. You probably wouldn't want to turn it on in real life. That would be a bad move, by the way, guys. Let's see here. Ooh, 107 degrees. Let's open that door back up. Mercy, it's hot in San Juan today. Okay. Try to bleed some of that air down for a minute. 107 degrees. Wow. I feel like we're in Tucson. Let's see here. It's actually a really cool day here today. Let's see here. Manual override is in the off position. Power levels are at idle. Propeller pitch needs to go to max. There's propeller pitch up at max. Condition lever is at cutoff and flaps are retracted. Let's keep moving down the system. Now let's move to the system check. So again, we're going to do this very fast. I don't want things getting too hot too long. So we're going to turn our battery test to the on position. Come up on over here. Make sure we're getting at least 25 volts. And let's see here. Fuel quantity as required. We've already checked that. But let's go ahead and double check. There's our fuel quantity gauge. Fuel quantity gauge looks good. Advisory panel 1 and 2. So we're going to test bus 1. Here we go. Test bus 2. Good. And oxygen light is extinguished. That is a critical one. You want to make sure we have enough oxygen for the flight. All right, let's keep zipping through here. So instrument lights and interior lights would be set as desired. Environmental control. Let's do a quick fault test. There's our fault test there. Flaps down and verified. So we want to actually drop the flaps. We're going to make sure they fall all the way down. Flaps are good. Gear control lights, we're going to do test 1. And you can sort of see the red light illuminate. I can see it. And I think I'm too far over. There we go. There it is. Okay. Pitot heaters, we're going to flip them on real quick. And make sure that the light's extinguished. Good. De-icing panel lights, we're going to do a quick test to make sure they illuminate. Again, they did there. And finally come back up, and here at this point we would do a source selector off, but since we're jumping right into the engine start, we're going to make sure we're good to go. So the last thing that we need to do for the engine start, wrong way, is get that door closed again. Clear our master caution, even though they'll be back. All right, doors latched. Let's go ahead and jump right into it because we need to move quick here. Okay, parking brake is set. Oxygen is sufficient for flight. We've already checked the oxygen PSI. And but in case you're wondering, right there, we're going to turn our oxygen system on. Microphone switch, we want to make sure is in the norm position. Starter off and ignition is off. Landing gear handle is down. And crash bars up. Source selector off. Radio master to on if we need to get clearance. But we're going to skip that part for today and just jump right into it. So, source selector battery. Generator set to main. Do a quick horn test. Good. Got it. Advisory panel, make sure the door light is extinguished. Fuel selection set to manual, or auto, excuse me. And auxiliary boost pump set to the on position. Make sure that we have pressurization. Fuel quantity, again, is verified. Fuel pressure is checked. ITT test, we're going to depress that. Make sure our ITT needle peaks all the way over to the other side. Make sure we get good reads. Nav lights on, strobe lights replacing the beacon light, essentially letting everyone know the aircraft is getting ready to start. All right, manual override is off. Selector is on battery. Auxiliary boost pumps are on. Ignition to the auto position. Auto or on, really. And starter on. Watching for 13% NG. Or rotation. $13, give it a start. Watch for a hot start. We don't want anything over 1,000 degrees for more than 5 seconds, 870 degrees for more than 20 seconds. If that were to happen, come on, come down. There we go. If that were to happen, we would immediately move the cutoff lever back down, or the condition lever back into cutoff. All right. And watching for 50%. There it is. Going into flight idle or high idle. Starter switch off. Now we're going to jump ahead in our checklist just a little bit and get that air conditioning rolling. Means we need bleed air on, fan flow to auto. Let's get those vents running. Okay. So now we'll check everything. Engine temp looks good. Oil temp looks good. Auxiliary boost pump. Make sure that it is in the auto position. There we go. Make sure the battery is charging. Battery's got a good charge on it. Amp is reading, or excuse me, battery's got good voltage. Battery or charge meter is showing charging. Gyro instruments all on. Make sure that the gyro is set to slave right here. Do our de-icing tests. Start with the airframe. Should cycle from the left boot to the right boot. Once the right boot illuminates, we can shut it off. There it goes. Should shut that off. Prop de-ice. Good. Left windshield. Right windshield. De-icing check complete. Inertial separator goes to the on position during taxi. Okay, moving upstairs for a second. Once again, amp meter we want to make sure is below 50. We're going to set the generator over to the standby position, make sure everything's functioning there. Make sure we still have above 28 volts. Amp meter still shows charging. Generator back to the main position. Master caution, go ahead and clear that. Flaps retracted. Never want to taxi with the flaps down. They sit so low to the ground, you don't want to kick anything up after the control surfaces. And again, this is where we skipped ahead a little bit, but we'll re-verify. Bleed air is in the auto position. Air conditioning is on. Fan flow is set to auto. Temperature set as desired. And cabin pressure we will set when we get to the right before takeoff. So air distributor is set to the normal position. You have normal and defog. Defog sort of acts exactly as it sounds like. Mercy. But we all know that fog isn't particularly modeled well in Microsoft Flight Simulator. Weather radar to off or standby. We'll go ahead and set it to the standby position. Radio master can now come to the on position. FS master. Go ahead and flip that on. Make sure that both units are running their self-test. If not, you would actually hit the composite test switch. Okay. If you're ever not seeing the HSI here on your lower display, you need to hit the composite switch, which will actually repeat the flight director. Primary flight display, that's what I meant to say. Electric, or actually it's electric, what is it? EADI. Electronic Attitude Director Indicator. Gosh, I cannot talk today. I can slow down now. I need to remember that I can slow down now. It was the temperature I was getting worried about. Like I said, this thing actually has failures in it, so I get worried when flying this thing and it starts showing problems. Alright, transponder already set to the VFR for the area, although we are going to be flying IFR. Let's keep going down. Autopilot trim master switch on. Make sure that the test system is running. And we're going to do our electric trim test now. Make sure the elevator trim controls are working. Then make sure trims are somewhere in the green. I normally keep it about 12 or 13 degrees. Alright, and it seems to work fabulous for me. Audio panel as desired. Top row, what you're listening to. Bottom row, what you are communicating on. So we're going to have COM 1, COM 2 as receiving. Transponder, let's go ahead and simulate our transponder code, and we'll set that to the on position. And we could have done it two different ways. I actually like using this one more. Alright, and let's go ahead and enter in our flight plan. And today, for the first time, I'm going to use the SimBrief import from the GTN 750. And when I say first time, I mean my first time. So flight plan, where did I see it? Menu. Import. Import from SimBrief. TJIG, in case you guys are wondering, this is where we're flying. And it looks like it got everything. And I'm just going to verify that real quick from SimBrief. Make sure that the route matches what we have here. So give me a minute. I'm pulling up my flight route now on SimBrief. And let's see what we got. So let's see here. We're going to be departing from one way. We're going to be departing one way. Gosh, can't talk today, you guys. I'm sorry. Anyway, see, how do I get rid of that? Back. There we go. I don't know if I need to put that in or not. We're not doing anything fancy. We're not using a SID. So we are going direct to San Juan. There we go. Yep. Our way. Oop. Our way. Nice. Airway on the RT6. The STT transition. Then jumping onto the Alpha 638. Exiting at PJM or St. Martin. Or St. Martin. And landing at TNCM direct runway 10. Cool. And so the only thing that I'm going to do is go back to our procedures. Whoa. Okay. Well, that wasn't what I was going for. Let's go to our procedures. I do want the approach for runway 10 over at TNCM. So we're going to do RNAV 10. And we do need to change our transition. And I believe that was... Oh, I saw it. Is it PJM? No, that doesn't make sense. Let's see here. Run through my Kabul. That one right there. Gable, wherever you want to say it. Okay. Alright, so we've got our approach in... Oh, did I not save it? You dork. Just load the approach. There we go. Alright. So, we're set, ready to rock. Oh, nice. It even removed the previous waypoint. Awesome sauce. Cool. Alright, so now we're going to go back. And let's go back to our map. Nice. Look, I like it. Set the CDI to the GPS. Alright, if I'm not mistaken, folks, we're just about ready to rock and roll. I think we can set our initial altitude. Again, we're flying direct. We don't have any restrictions. 27,000 feet. Really? Wow. Seems high for today. We're not going that far. We're only going like 380 miles. Well, I mean, I guess that's not that high, huh? Alright, well, let's go ahead. I'm going to set it all the way up. There's no reason. There's nothing holding us down. We don't have any transition altitudes out of here that I could find on the charts. So I think we're just going to let it rip. Let's see here. Let me actually re-verify that. Let's re-verify our charts real quick. So we're going to again use that from here. Oh, that's not what I wanted. Back. Charts. Not TNCM. I can't remember where the hell we are. TJIG. TJIG. Yeah. Enter. Departures. No chart available. Okay, that's what I thought. I didn't think that I found one. Okay, that's totally fine. So let's go back. Yeah, so we're just going to grip it, rip it, take off, and have some fun. All right. Cannot complain about that. All right, and the last thing that I want to get, I don't think we're going to get any MEDAR information from here, but out of giggles, let's cross our fingers and try. Oh! Hey, let's see. Hey, how about that? 170, 10 knots, gusting at 16 knots. So, winds coming from 170. Let's see here. Winds are coming from the south in, right? So they're coming in like this. All right, so yeah, we need to take off from down here. Okay, no worries. And what is that runway? Oh, is that it? That's the max? Okay. Anyway, all right, I'm not worried about it. This one over here, we'll look at it later. I want to fly. Okay, back to my guide here. Let's see where we're at here. That is the wrong screen. There we go. All right, so we've got our flight plan entered. We're all good there. Let's come back down to here. So we've got that. That's taken care of. Taxi procedures. We have our altitude set. Let's go ahead and turn those flight directors on. We can set our altitude as our target. You son of a gun. I knew you were going to do that. $27,000 feet. And let's see what we got. All right, GPS is set to the CDI. Inertial separator is on. Weather radar is on standby. Taxi light is turned on. Parking brake would be released. Then we'll do a brake hold or brake check. And then we're ready for our before departure checklist. So let's get her out of here. We're ready to have some fun. Let's do this. Brakes released. I love this airplane. Love this airplane. So somebody asked me, guys, in one of my previous videos about the TBM-850, why I didn't do a comparison, or that I should have done a comparison with the TBM-930. They're asking what the difference is. Here's my thing, and I tried to fray away from this. And the reason being is the TBM-930 is still an absolutely fun aircraft, especially with all the development that Working Title has done with it. It is a wonderful plane. I love the TBM-930, and I swore by it until the TBM-850 came out. So let's talk about my biggest reasons as to why I prefer the TBM-850. When we talk about comparison, in my personal opinion, guys, please respect, it's my personal opinion, that's all. In my personal opinion, there is no comparison. The aircraft is significantly better performing than what we have with the TBM-930. The flight model is better, the failures are better, the features are better, the aircraft textures, in my opinion, are better. Everything about the experience of flying the TBM is better, in my opinion, with the 850. He's going to just roll right in there, huh, bud? Okay. All right, there you go, bud. Anyway, there's no comparison, in my opinion. There isn't a comparison. The TBM-850 from Black Square is better on all aspects that I can personally think of than the TBM-930 that comes with the default Microsoft Flight Simulator. But that is not to say the default Microsoft Flight Simulator TBM-930 isn't a fun aircraft. Guys, I probably have easily over 100 videos flying the TBM-930. It was the second tutorial guide I ever made for Microsoft Flight Simulator, was the TBM-930. It's an incredibly fun aircraft. I loved my TBM and still love the TBM. One of the biggest things that draws me to this one over the TBM-930 is the glass cockpit. I like the steam gauges. I like the old analog cockpit. I like it a lot better. I think it's more fun. It's more engaging for me as a sim pilot. Keeps the mind a bit busier. All right, so let's bring this around here. Now, according to the Real World TBM-850 Pilot's Operational Handbook, the following tests would be done after you line up the aircraft. But that just seems odd to me, so we're going to do it right here, holding short. Master caution from the parking brake, and let's get after it. Okie dokies. So, walking through everything, we have the condition lever, parking brake is set, condition levers at high idle. Let's do the terrain advisory warning system. All right, we're going to throttle up to 1900 RPMs. $1900 can be a little tricky to hit, not gonna lie. Alright, that's close enough. We'll manage there. No, it's not. Now it's falling too low. Like I said, it can be a little bit of a pain in the butt. At least on the Bravo. Alright, we're gonna call that as good. So, now we're gonna feather the propeller twice. Looking between should be about 500 RPM drop. 400 to 500 RPMs. I think it's 400. Good. Okay. And the last step here is you want to do an overspeed test, which you should see about a 50 to 100 RPM drop. There it is. Let go. And throttle's back to idle. All right, now we want to make sure that we don't have any kind of fuel imbalance. If necessary, you would hit the shift button to switch tanks, but we're totally fine. Auxiliary boost pumps are set to auto. Fuel selection is set to manual as well. Flaps to takeoff. And we also need to set our inertial separator to off. We have a nice runway. We don't have any kind of icing concerns or anything like that. So for takeoff, the inertial separator is turned off. Pitot 1 and 2 stall heaters are turned on. De-ice would be as needed. Landing lights. Pulse lights. Now the pulse lights require the landing light, so if you have to have one without the other. Flight controls are clear and clear. Amp meter, again, make sure it's below 50. Landing lights are on. Pulse lights are on. Transponder set to altitude. Elevator trim is set. And the last thing we'll do before we take the runway is set our pressurization. So in our case, we are flying up to, so we've got cabin altitude and aircraft altitude. We're doing it 27,000 feet. You want to set your pressurization to 1,000 feet above your cruise level. So we're going to roll this all the way over to 2.8. These are in thousands of feet. So there's 2.6 and 28,000. All right. And then here, you typically want to leave this as the pressurization rate. Right will increase the rate. Left obviously decreases. You typically can leave it right where it is. About 700 feet per minute is what the pressurization is set to by default. All right. All right. Let's take the runway. That windsock is very misleading. Hang on a second. Let's go look at that real quick. It's just a nasty crosswind, but yeah, I guess it's barely the runway that we need. All right, well, we'll expect that nasty crosswind. That's going to be brutal. Okay, so let's rock and roll here. So let's make sure we align our heading bug. All right, heading bug is aligned. Weather radar, go ahead and set that to on. That's test. There we go. And we have our pressurization set. Brakes released. Torque. Takeoff power, and this is all broken down in the guide, but it's going to be 100% at 2,000 RPMs for anything below 8,000 feet. And let's hope release the parking brake. That would make a big freaking difference. Now, the TBM-850 does have a torque limiter, but I highly recommend you not get in the habit of using it. Learn to set your throttle at 100%. Learn where your throttle positions are, because they do become critical later on. God. Wow, guys, holy crap. Give me a second. I'm going to stay quiet for a minute. Mercy. 85 knots rotation. Whoa, come on. Pick up, pick up. All right, let it slip. Let it slip. Holy mercy. That was nasty. Gear up. Come on, baby. 115 knots, flaps up. Alright. Looking for 130 knots as our climb rate. Yaw damper on. Come on, babe. Move the system up to 850 mode. And continue our climb at 121% torque. Dude, this wind is awful. Holy crap. I'm going to give it to the autopilot. Alright, we have indicated airspeed locked in, meaning that we will climb at 130 knots. Whatever speed you're at when you hit IAS, that's the speed that the aircraft will try to maintain as it climbs through. So we have 121% torque. Now, I recommend actually coming a little bit beneath it. You can see I'm right about 120% torque, because it will let you exceed that, in which case you'll get a warning here, exceeding max torque limits, and just, then you start feeling bad about yourself, and, probably rethink your life and whether or not you should be a sim pilot at that point. It's a thing that I don't want you guys to go through. So I would recommend keeping it right around 120%. Now, so how that should have gone, and that was pretty rough, but we released the brakes, torque goes to 100%, RPMs 2,000, rotate 85 knots, climb angle at 7.5 degrees. Obviously tap the brakes and bring the gear handle up with a positive rate of climb. Once your flaps are confirmed retracted, your flaps must be up before you do this. Take your flap switch, move it up in the 850 position, which removes the torque limiter, which allows you to go to 121% torque, giving you 850 horsepower. That is the difference between the TBM-700 and the TBM-850. Is the TBM-850 has 850 horsepower, but it is not rated for 850 horsepower during takeoff. That is the difference, big difference between the two. Hence why you have the 850 mode. At 115 knots, flaps can come up. If you're really heavy, you want to wait till 120. And honestly, I probably should have waited. We're a pretty heavy bird today. I probably should have gone for the 120 knots. That crosswind was kicking my tail there, so I'm not gonna lie, I got a little worried. I wasn't quite sure how that was going to end. Verify pressurization is increasing. The cabin rate is climbing, so we got good climb there, good climb rate. De-icing switches as required. And let's see here. Verify our fuel quantity balance is looking good. Now we do have. Why do we have a master caution? Oh, message GPS 1. Oh, is that going to flash every single time? Huh, I've never seen that before. This is the first time using the GTN 750 and the TBM-850, so... see what I did there? The 750 and the 850? I don't know. Don't ask me. Alright, so then once we are clear of the takeoff, we pitch for 130 knots, increase power to 121% torque, as we just discussed. You can do a couple different things. You can use vertical speed to manage your speed rate. The easier way, now in my guide, I do have you guys use vertical speed initially, just so you understand how it works, how you understand the functionality, and to really stress you out, because that's essentially what it does. It gets a little stressful managing everything, especially if you're doing it by mouse and keyboard. So just being honest there, that's exactly what it does. But after that, once we're clear of the initial takeoff, I do have you guys switch to the IAS indicator, which makes managing your takeoff significantly, or your climb significantly easier. So from here on out, we're going to be monitoring our engine torque. As we continue to climb, the engine torque will decrease. You want to increase your power lever to maintain the 121%, but there's a catch. As you have to continue to increase your power lever, your ITT is going to increase. You do not want to exceed 840 degrees, okay? So call it 840 as your warning line. 850 is the max, but 840 is where things start to get a little ugly. So say 840 and below. All right? Again, after takeoff, as you guys saw, we turned our yaw damper on. Pilot or autopilot can come on whenever you're comfortable. Anything outside of about 200 feet. Once you're climbing and stable, autopilot's at your discretion. All right, so let's just sort of verify where we're at here. We're approaching 10,000 feet. Still got a few to go here. Speed is verified. IAS mode is on. Autopilot set. Pressurization we're not ready for yet. And so really, we are sitting tight until it's time for the cruise. So that's obviously going to be a while at this point. But you guys can see here the torque is already starting to fall off. So we'll wait for the 10,000 foot mark so we can turn our lights off. And actually, we're really not going to turn anything off. We can turn our taxi lights off, but we're going to leave the landing lights on because remember what I was telling you earlier, the landing lights are dependent, or excuse me, the pulse light is dependent upon the landing lights. The pulse light we leave on until transition altitude, which based on where, well, actually, I guess technically we've passed transition altitude out here. So I think transition altitude out here is 6,000 feet, actually. It's either 6 or 7, so we can actually turn those off now. So we control our external lights. But like, for example, in the US, where transition altitude is 18,000 feet, you would wait until your 18,000 foot mark, turn your pulse lights off, turn the landing lights off, and you're good to go and ready for cruise. Okay, but at this point, now we're just going to be continuing to monitor our torque. I'm going to show you guys what that looks like right now. So we're going to zoom in. You guys can see it's falling off as we climb. So I'm going to add power. I'm increasing my throttle. Watch the ITT as I increase. So there we are, back right about 120%. And you can see that our ITT jumped about 30 degrees, 20 degrees, somewhere around there. Okay, now you want to be watching this as well. NG, that's another one. Your NG percent, you guys can see here, we're at 100%. You do not want to exceed 110 at any point. Again, at that point, you're overstressing. Okay, but I think that's really it until... that's all we're going to be doing until we get up to our cruise altitude. So we got a ways to go. Obviously, oh, you know what? That's the other thing we can do is set our standard pressure. There it is, 29902. And so from here, just enjoy the view until we get to our cruise altitude, and I'll show you guys how to set the cruise setting. And we'll be on our way until the descent. So I just wanted to show you guys real quick what I was talking about earlier. So you can see we're at 834 degrees on the ITT. I can't push the torque any higher, even though we're starting to fall pretty far below the 121%. I'm actually going to pull that torque off a little bit further to give myself a little bit of buffer. 835 degrees, only 5 degrees Celsius. That's not much to talk about. So as you get higher and higher, you will lose the ability to maintain 121%, and that's completely normal. All right, so now let's go ahead and calculate our top of descent here. We're about 500 feet from our altitude, so let's go ahead and get that locked in. So we're going to come on here. We're going to go to Utilities, VNav Calculations, Target Altitude. We're going to set this down to basically 200 feet. That's what I'm going to lock it into. And MSL, Vertical Speed Profile, we descend at 2,000 feet per minute. Press Enter. And let's do 2 miles. Enter. Before target waypoint. Actually, we'll do that, and we'll set this instead to 700 feet and lock the waypoint in. It'll work perfect. All right, and right now we've got 36 minutes to the top of descent. All right, oops. And since we're here, we're basically at our cruise altitude, so let's set our torque. So for flight level 250, you would lock in at 113% torque at 2,000 RPMs. At flight level 300, we'd run at 95% torque at 2,000 RPMs. So it's good to say that we're sort of right there in the middle, and honestly, if you guys look here, NG, we're at 103 torque, we're at about 110. So what we'll do is, I think we'll come back to about, I don't know, 105-ish, 100%-ish, there we go, somewhere around there. And just sort of let it rockets roll from here. Make sure all of our temperatures are down, although NG, oh, it's high, but it's still underneath the limit. But that's all I'm going to do. So again, the chart shows anything below flight level 250, so 25,000 feet, you would run a torque at 121%. Flight level 250, so if you were at 25,000 feet, you'd run at 113%, and 300, you'd run at 95%. So we're sort of picking something in between. If you don't feel comfortable doing that, then I would say lock in at whatever you're closest to. So in this case, we'd probably round down and call it 113%. We're a little bit below that, calling it square. And it seems to be working good. All of our temps are in the right range. Fuel status looks great, no problems. And let's see here, we have our descent in 25 minutes. So I'll catch you guys as we come back up there. Well, let's see here. Did I miss anything? I don't think I did. Nope. No, that's it. We've already planned our descent. So it's just time to wait for the top of descent. Yeah, that's where we're at. All right, guys. So I'll catch you guys in a bit. All right, you guys. So it rapidly jumped to 30 seconds. So we're going to start this right now. We're going to go vertical speed, switch it over, and start our descent at 2,000 feet per minute. And what we're looking for is 230 knots is what we want to descend at now. Do not rely on the indicated airspeed for your descent, as it will rapidly change your descent rate the lower you get. So 230 knots is what our target is, but we're more interested in the 2,000 feet per minute. We want to make sure we get down to our altitude where we belong. Adjusting torque along the way. Now the one thing that we should have done that I did not do, you want to make sure, actually good, we're already set. You want to make sure you're on your fullest tank when you start your descent. If you're not, you want to hit the shift button. But luckily for me, we were on the fullest tank at the time of descent. So at this point, go back to our map and just continue our descent down. So again, we're looking for 2,000 feet per minute. 230 knots is our target airspeed, although may not always be achievable. The biggest thing is the feet per minute. It's okay to be slower as we won't cover as much ground. Faster than 230 knots during the descent, you can find yourself in an interesting situation. All right, so continue to monitor your ITT. Watch your torque, because as we descend, it's going to go the opposite direction. Now your torque is going to increase as we continue descent, so you're going to have to pull power off to maintain it. All right. And then again, as we get the transition altitude, all that good jazz. Oh, that reminds me, that was the last thing that we forgot to do. Shame on me. We're going to set our pressurization back down to sea level. Luckily, we didn't wait too long, or that would have been uncomfortable, wouldn't it? So back down to sea level, and verify that the pressure was, or the cabin was depressurizing, which it is. And then from here, we'll just monitor our descent down. So I'll catch you guys as we get closer to the approach. All right, as we're coming into a few things here, let's do this. Let's we're gonna center our heading bug for a minute. Go into heading mode. Go to our VOR course, and the final approach course is 096 degrees. So let's make sure we get on that. Oh, helps if I'm in the right mode. Stand by. That would be helpful. There we go. And what did I say? 096. Final approach course. And let's make sure we have the VOR localizer. And that should be 113.0. 1130. Transfer. There we go. Alright, we can return to GPS. Go back into nav mode. Alright, minimums for this flight are going to be 200 feet. So let's set the decision height. And 200 is what we want, so we're good there. Put that back up. I think it's actually like 206 or something like that. Hang on a second. 214 is what it would be, so 200 is fine. We'll leave it at that for now. Alright. We are looking good here. Now, as I don't see us, and we're coming below 2,000 or 10,000 feet, as I don't see us coming back above 100% torque, what I'm going to do now, and the guide walks you through this all on the approach and things like that. Actually, we'll stick to the approach. Let me walk through it with you guys. Alright, so we have our localizer frequency set, 110.0 or 113.0. Decision height is set at 200 feet. And let's see here, let's keep walking through this. Heading bug, we'll align that once we turn on to the final approach. We have our final course set in the localizer on the HSI. Nav mode has been returned. And let's see here. Yep, so the next step will be, once we turn on to the approach, we will disengage, come out of 850 mode, and start working through the approach. So we're almost there, but we still got a minute. Alright, we're coming up on transition altitude, so I'm going to turn some lights back on. There's the pulse lights, landing lights, with the taxi lights when it's time. Start zooming this back in. Okay. Once we pass the transition altitude, we'll set our barometric pressure. There we go, barometric pressure set. And we'll set it again as we get closer to the runway. Final numbers in. Alright, we're coming in high on our approach. I'm not sure if this is going to work out here. Well, looks like the VNav missed that one. We followed our descent profile. If anything, I feel like we should have gotten here early. But we'll see if we can make this work in time. Oh, maybe not. Come on. No. Don't speed down on me yet. Pulled way too much power off. I did not want her to slow down that fast. And it did not go through the approach plan, which was odd. Well, that's my fault. Never mind, I didn't activate the damn thing. Well, cool. All right, so we're flying visual now. Let's go ahead and disengage the autopilot. Short field landing, here we go. Or short approach landing. So, come out of 850 mode. We can do flaps 1. Gear down. Taxi light on. And we're going to have to do a go around real quick. So, just watch our speed here. Not bad. So, had to do a little turnaround. $1,500 feet. Oh. For a go around altitude. And now we just maintain the way in. Whoa, baby. Holy crap. A little low on the glide slope. Go. There it is. Had it. Below approach speed. Lost our approach speed. Throttles to idle. Or throttle. Tell I'm used to flying the bigger planes too. I always say throttles. Easy, not yet. Come back, come left. Set that left wheel down. Ah, come on. Okay. Ooh. All right. I like to bring the flaps up almost instantaneously, at least to takeoff, and then when we clear the runway, get them up the rest of the way. But takeoff, that way you're ready for the go-around. Let's clear the runway. Alright. Ooh, doggy. Alright. So, yaw damper is off. Power levels at idle. We already got that. Okay, so let's see here. De-icing is off. Inertial separator is on. De-icing. Let's set our pitot switches off. Weather radar goes to the off position. Landing lights off. Pulse lights off. Let's see here. Taxi lights on. Strobe lights on. Oxygen supply off. Transponder set to the on position. And taxi to parking. And given all these vehicles here, we're going to say this is our parking. We'll say it's a private parking, right? Yeah. So let's at least get it out of the way here. Come on, baby. Keep going. Actually, I don't know. I think I can squeeze through there, don't you? I know there's no damage model, but it's like one of those things like, you know. Yeah, alright. I think we got through. There we go. All right. Oof, okay, close enough. All right, there we go. So now let's see what we got. Let's walk through our shutdown checklist here. All right, parking brake is engaged and verified on the annunciator. Taxi lights off. Nav and strobe lights can now turn off. Bleed air off. Where was I? Cabin pressure depressurized, verified. Air conditioning system off. Fuel or fan flow set to the auto. Power level, you want to leave it in the idle position for at least 1 minute. Gyros can go off. And let's see here. FS off. Autopilot trims master switch off. Radio master off. Propeller, feather it for 15 seconds. Okay, close enough. And condition lever low and cut off. Auxiliary boost pump off. Fuel selection to manual. Inertial separator off. External lights are all off. Ignition off. Source selector off. Generator leaves main. Crash bar down, which brings it down anyway. And our aircraft is done for the day. Let's deboard our passengers. And there it is, my friends. The TBM-850 flight from San Juan over to Princess Juliana in the Caribbean. I hope you guys have enjoyed this video. Remember to join me on Patreon. We have another turboprop guide that is getting ready to be released. I cannot tell you what it is yet, but I will be able to tell you very, very soon. And I mean very soon. So be on the lookout for a new video very soon. But if you guys are interested in supporting my work, please consider joining me on Patreon. It certainly does help me out. Definitely keeps the guides flowing. As always, guys, stay safe and healthy, and I will see you in the next one.